Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Breaking News Bears. We're here with episode 14 for Dynasty Sports Network, Breaking News Bears. I'm joined by Mayor Russo today and Evan Davis, and we're going to break down last week in baseball. Welcome to the podcast again, boys. Welcome back.
Yes, good to be back. Wasn't a long time since we were gone, but always good to hop on and talk some ball.
Of course. And I think this week we are going to be starting with the New York Mets. A lot of New York in this week's podcast, but we'll start here with the Mets. 14-5 for the best record in the MLB, obviously leading the National League East. The Mets have been one of the hottest teams in baseball. Third best team ERA, fifth best OPS in the MLB. It's looking like the New York Mets so far in the first 2 weeks of the season are the class of the MLB. And I want to know from you guys, who do you guys think has made the biggest impact on the team's success this year? Name a Mets player that you think has really taken control of this season and has really deserve a lot of credit for this season. Let's start with Mario.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So who I got is the pitcher, Chris Bassitt, age 33 years old, just much like a lot of older pitchers have in this day and age right now, have been tearing up the MLB. Now you could blame that on the lack of hitting, the stats that are not really favorable to the hitter, but the pitchers are getting it done. And Chris Bassitt is one of those pitchers. He started his outing and his career out with the Mets with 8 Ks and just 3 hits given up. And he's a guy who really flew under the radar with this Mets team in the offseason. He was, when you're bringing in guys like Scherzer, paying money out the wazoo for him, I'm sure everyone in the league is going to be overshadowed by that. But Chris Bassitt quietly comes into the lineup, and nobody really thought maybe he's just a back end starter, but he slowly emerged into, I'm not going to say the 1A, 1B, because we know whose spots those are reserved for, but this guy's a reliable 1C guy who could be a possible 1A or 1B guy in any other team across Major League Baseball. Now, the injuries did give him an opportunity to go slide into the lineup and succeed, and he just took full advantage of that opportunity. The reason why I picked Chris Bassitt, though, was not just because of his numbers. It was because what he brought to this team. Now, this team, the New York Mets, if you've been following them for quite a while, I follow the Phillies, so they're right by in that same division. And you do play them several amount of times. But if you've been looking at the New York Mets, they have been a team that is amazing on paper, but always just hits this head, no matter where it is in the season, where they just underperform. It gets stuck with them, and then it continues to spree from there. I think Chris Bassitt, with what he did, what he brought, this is a guy who came to the team and was a really quiet guy, not a lot of hype around him. Nobody really cared what Chris Bassitt was getting. Oh, we don't get much from him. Who cares? We got Max Scherzer and DeGrom leading them out. That didn't happen this year, and none of it came out of the gates. Chris Bassitt took the opportunity, and he showed that everyone on this team that if Chris Bassitt could get it done, why can't we all get it done? And I think that's been a spread effect towards everyone on the roster. You're seeing the hitting stats. I looked at them very briefly today. I'm just seeing a bunch of 300 averages, which is never a bad sign, especially for the Mets. But they came out of the gates flying. They have a strong record. They've looked to be a much better team than they have in the past. I don't think I've ever seen this Mets team as successful as they are now. Obviously, when they went to the World Series, that's a totally different story. But this team is they're ready. They're legit. And Chris Bassitt is the one soul, for me at least, who's been really leading the way for this team. And he deserves all the praise in the world, because what he's had to go through at his age and a new place of scenery, I don't know how you don't give him the benefit of the doubt here. He is my player for the most impactful individual in the New York Mets.
Yeah. And to your point, Mario, about this roster looking, not like a typical Mets roster, it being, the vibe even in the clubhouse is that the players are feeling like this is a very different team. And it is, because this team has a lot of depth, and that's not what we've seen in Mets teams of the past. I know, the injuries have been a huge thing that has hampered the Mets for, many years. It feels like going back for almost half a decade now that the Mets have had injury problems every single year. And the one way that you combat that is you have depth, and you have guys like Bassitt that when your 1 and your 2 starters are, have delayed spring trainings or can't get in games because they're injured, you have a guy like Bassitt who steps up and takes the reins like that, which is what you're seeing a lot in this Mets team. Is it's the star players are stepping up, and you've got a lot of support behind them. As you said, the whole offensive roster seems like it's hitting 300, and the whole pitching staff seems like it's on fire right now. So, Evan, who's your pick from that bunch to say who's most responsible for the Mets team's success this year?
I'm going to go Francisco Lindor. I think it was safe to say last year, maybe a lot of people viewed the contract as an overpay, considering the fact that he had a very underwhelming first year in New York. But, 4 home runs now. I think he's definitely been a lot better. I know he came out of the gate flying, and I hope he continues to do that. I mean, they did pay him, I think, like, 300 something million dollars. So that he's got to make it well worth it for them, at least at the beginning parts of this contract. But yeah, a guy who he only had 20 home runs last year, so not something you're really hoping for when that guy's making the most amount of money on your team. So I'll definitely say that Lindor has been at least living up to the expectations that he had with Cleveland, and now he's taking it over to New York.
Yeah, Lindor already 4 home runs on the year, 854 OPS. He's definitely like leading the pack for this Mets offense, and he's definitely making a difference now with the bat in his hand. Obviously, the defense has always been there, but to have that kind of a bat in the lineup, that's what you paid him for, right? So the Mets are finally reaping the benefits of that contract. I have a question for you guys though, because we've seen the Mets in the past. We've seen how they tend to either get off to really good starts and then hit a cliff and fall off, like you were saying, Mario, or they tend to sort of stumble out of the gates and then they pick up steam right before the All-Star break and then they collapse all of a sudden. It feels like we're always waiting for a Mets team to hit a wall and to sort of collapse and drop from first to third in the division and just have the whole season be a wash. Do you guys think that this season is sustainable? Can the Mets win the division? And if not, who do you think is going to take it from them? Mario, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a sprung up question on me, but I think it's more than capable. They've hit so many walls, and I don't like tying in hockey to this podcast, but there's a team that kind of surrounds the back of my room here, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've hit a bunch of walls in regards to playoff success. Now, that's totally different than regular season success, but it's a wall. And these teams, as they continue to evolve, and we're going to see it obviously with this Maple Leafs team, but I want to see with this Mets team as they continue to evolve. When do you know, okay, we know when certain things are not going to go our way. We know when the walls are going to happen. We know what they're all about. How do we avoid that? And this red hot start has shown, to me at least, that this team knows how to work around and cut around all these sort of big walls they've hit. You mentioned before, coming out of the gates a lot of times for this team is a really tough task, and it is much easier said than done. This year they conquered that. That's another thing that they did. Everything that they do up to this point is sort of going to be, and I don't want to say it because this team is supposed to be successful. We rank them as successful teams heading into the year. Everything should consider a bonus. You have had such horrible heartbreaks for not only your fan base, but for your team as well. The morale has always been down. Any step you take in the right direction, every win you get, every, I guess, 2-3 month period where you're not hitting that wall is something to celebrate for. And it's going to be a whole season where the Mets are going to try to scrape by and not in the terms of record wise, but they're going to try to scrape by and keep on pushing. And that's the one thing that you have to have with this team and with this group of players as well. If everyone is churning and doing what they have to do, this team is unstoppable. They're my pick right now. And I know it's 20, 30 games into the regular season. It's very early and there's a lot of good teams. The Phillies are a competitive team, but again, we've seen what they've done this year. They've hit that brick wall already. They've been an inconsistent team, much like the Mets have been in years past. That's a team who have yet to, at least to my credit, have deserved to say that they've moved on and this is a fresh leaf. This Mets team has shown that it is a fresh leaf, and they are my team to maybe win the division. And now Atlanta's there. There's a bunch of other teams there, but the Mets look the most threatening as of right now. And all the signs are pointing in the right direction for the New York Metropolitans. Get to know the latter half of that name because we will be getting pretty familiar with it. But that's my take, my 10 cents on the New York Mets.
Yeah, the Mets, they've definitely been in a lot of competitive games this year. I mean, they haven't had the toughest schedule just yet, but they've beaten the teams that they've had to beat, and 14-5 is nothing to scoff at, no matter who you are in the league. So, Evan, how do you think the Mets are going to finish out this year? You think they're going to be able to hold on to that first spot in the division?
Yeah, no, I don't think they are because I'm just looking, like the Atlanta Braves, they're definitely hitting that World Series hangover, it seems like. And I'm also just looking at the Philadelphia Phillies who have the same record as them. I don't know. It's just the whole injury things with the New York Mets right now. I mean, obviously Max Scherzer is back. Jacob deGrom, we don't know when he's going to be there. Sometimes it's just, and they haven't also had, to your point there, like a very tough schedule, to work with, and teams are just underperforming in their division. Like, as we just mentioned, no one really expected the Braves to be below 500 at any point in the season, really, maybe besides the first two games. But I don't know. It's just really weird what's going on. And the thing is, it's 162 games and
it's very long.
It's a very long season. Anything can happen. And, right now they're 5 games up on the next best team, which would, I think, is like the Marlins at 8-8. So like, who even expected the Marlins to be 500? So it's weird, but I don't know. I don't see the Mets winning that division, and I don't know. They could make the playoffs, and there's also a slight chance that they might not. But even with the extended playoff format, they'll have a chance. But I still have the Braves winning that division.
And the one thing I'll say about the Mets before we obviously move on, they're very advantageous. They're very opportunistic. They will, right as of right now, they have been capitalizing on all the scoffs that we've been seeing from the Atlanta Braves, the Phillies, and they're beating up on those bad teams, but they're playing the cards that they're dealt. And that's all that you need to ask. If they can continue to do this. And I know this is a big ask. This is the reason why baseball is so unpredictable and so hard. The season is so damn long. You can't say, okay, this is not even a start, I don't think. I think you're going to talk about a start in the next month or so. That's when you consider, okay, they actually had a good start. This is just premature stuff. And I think the Mets have really capitalized on it. They've shown that they are, at least right now, capable of switching some heads. And I'm really high on the Mets. And I hope I don't sound like I'm just all biased. This is probably the better fan base here in New York, which we're going to discuss a little later as well. But no, I'm really happy to see that they're doing well. I'm hoping they can continue to keep up the success. But Mateo, do you have any other thoughts on the Mets? Because I don't know, they're a team that's been a big surprise, but also at the same time have played to what we've sort of should expect from this team.
They definitely made a statement, and so far they're surpassing the expectations that I had for them. I mean, I found it very hard to bet for the Mets at the beginning of the year. I mean, I don't think anybody can blame you for picking against the Mets. I mean, it feels like they're always definitely, a little bit more hampered than they should be. But a 14-5 start is the way you want to go if you're going to, prove everybody wrong and take that number one spot in the division. And to everybody's point, yeah, the Braves haven't been great. And yeah, the NL East is still very much a toss up. The first 20 games of a season definitely doesn't decide how the league is going to shake up. I mean, if you look at the playoff picture right now, it's definitely not what anybody would have expected coming into the beginning of the year. But I mean, the Mets play the Braves, I think, for the first time on Monday. It's a 4-game series, so maybe we'll have some more answers coming after that. Should be exciting. Moving on, staying kind of with the Mets, staying just general baseball news. The Mets have been hit by a pitch 18 times this year in the 19 games they've played. And I haven't been watching the game today, but something tells me that there's been stuff going on today because there was a brawl with the Cardinals about a pitch inside. And I feel like there's definitely something going on there. So that number might actually be higher than 18 and 19 games. But anyway, after his last start yesterday, Chris Bassett had a great start. I think it was 6 shutout innings against the Cardinals. He had some very strong words about the baseball. So I'm going to read you guys this quote from last night. And he says, "The baseballs are all different. The first inning, they're decent. The third inning, they're bad. The fourth inning, they're okay. The fifth inning, they're bad. Then we have different climates. Everything's different. There's no common ground with the balls. There's nothing the same outing to outing. They're bad." Chris Bassett and a lot of other pitchers in the league, from what I understand, are complaining about the inconsistency of the baseballs. We've been told by Major League Baseball, or we as the fans have been told by Major League Baseball that, they were going to stop experimenting on the players, that we were going to have one ball this year, that it was going to be consistent. But that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, the average distance of fly balls so far has been reduced by about 2 feet. There's an unprecedented low rate in home runs that haven't seen since like the 2014 season, which is around when they started juicing the balls. And some pitchers, obviously like Bassett, are even claiming that the balls are different from climate to climate. So the balls that you'll see in LA are different than the balls that you'll see in Toronto and the balls that you'll see in Chicago. So based on the climate to sort of neutralize different ballparks. I kind of want to get your take on this. Do you guys believe that the MLB is still missing with baseballs? And do you think it's a good thing or not? Evan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't know. And I could just be wrong here, but it seems like, at least in New York, like how I've seen so many times that home runs that are hit in New York, like would only be a home run in that ballpark. And I don't know if that just has to do with also the low porches in the outfield, but it also just seems like a lot of the balls that they're hitting, like they look like fly balls. And then all of a sudden, like they're clearing the bases because it's a home run. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And I mean, I know we hear all the time, at least like Coors Field with the elevation, like the ball's just going to travel a lot more. Dodger Stadium, warm weather, the ball's going to travel a lot more, or like, I'm sorry, yeah, a lot more. And then you go to like Boston, and because of the cold air, it's going to die down before you get there. But I don't know, like I don't know if there hasn't really been an uproar in home runs, which I have noticed, like a lot of now runs being scored are just off contact.
Home runs are down. It's like the lowest in April that we've seen home runs since like the 2013 season or something, like 2014
yeah, which is
season.
Weird because like this is the time of the month where it's spring, like nice weather. You're going to see the ball travel a lot more, but it hasn't really been the case. And I don't know, it's really weird. And I've never understood why the balls are like that. And maybe that also has to do with the fact that there's no spider tack anymore. So like maybe like when the ball's now getting hit off the bat, it's not that same type of grip. I don't know the terminology, but
the
you know
spin
what I mean?
rate would be different.
Yeah, like so. It's just that could also be an issue, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Mario, have you noticed anything different with the way that the ball's flying this year?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I'm not up close and personal with the
Yeah.
pitcher's
Yeah.
mounts or anything. I haven't caught my own ball yet. We're continuously going to Jays games to try and secure that one. But no, I haven't got the up close look, obviously, but I've noticed a little bit more of the stats, and you already dived into those. And I've noticed that it's all true. These baseballs are really, I guess you could say, pitcher friendly, considering all the offensive stats are down. But I kind of want to look at the bigger issue. And I know that the balls are changed. And listen, just hear me out here because I just thought of this as you were discussing it.
Mhm.
If you're gonna, and I was a fan and this is a fan perspective versus an actual analyst perspective.
Yep.
As a fan, I absolutely loved when they juiced the baseballs. You're seeing a lot more home runs. The best thing in baseball, I think we can all speak here, is the home run ball. Everyone goes to see it. The fans love it. They actually have an opportunity to catch the ball in the outfield. So that's another bonus. But the home run ball is what makes this league probably the most amount of money. I'd say. I don't know.
Well,
It's
the 2017 World Series was one of the best like
yeah.
stretch of games that I've ever watched, and that was all because of the juice ball and all because of the home run, right?
Exactly. And that goes to my point as well. Everyone loved to watch it.
Yeah.
Imagine you saw this, and I don't think it's ever going to happen because the MLB has made it pretty clear on their stance on this. But Evan, you mentioned how they used the use of pitching with the spider tack and all those foreign substances. Listen, if you want, I think you go of it two ways if you're the MLB. Do you want to make the game fair? I think that's what they want to do at the end of the day, but they just don't want to admit it, or they want to admit it, but they don't actually want to see results. Listen, if you juice the balls, you're going to allow the balls, obviously, as we've seen in the past, to go much further. You're going to see an increase in home runs, an increase in, I guess, lovability of the game. Everyone's going to love it because we love seeing those home runs. If you're a pitcher, why not? And this is just completely off brand, but allow the pitching and the sticky tack. Maybe combat it that way, or you just do the simple option of making a ball that's equal for pitchers and batters. That's an easy option as well. I don't know how they're going to play around with it, and I don't think it's going to be the option that I said first, but I do know one thing, and the one thing that is evident with the MLB and the players is the worst thing possible. There is mistrust, and you don't want this. We've seen it throughout an entire lockout where we're just scraping for content. So screw you, MLB, for that. But no, there's such a massive mistrust here. There's no loyalty. There's an uncertainty around the MLB, their ownerships, their whoever's calling the shots, and the players playing on the field. That's not okay. And it's got something that has to be brought up numerously. And the pitchers are doing their best. They're saying that this is not right. We want a single baseball, one that works for both sides. Please make the game fair. And it's just Emily's not complying with it. And I think this is a big issue that I hope gets addressed in the upcoming years. They're not going to be able to resolve it this year because the MLB wants to do anything that they can to succeed and get different types of viewership. They're studying. This is an experiment, in my opinion. They're saying, okay, how do people are going to react? How are the fans going to react? How are the pitchers going to react? The players at stake. And I think they're just going to take it all in and make a new decision, and then a new decision, and then a new decision. This is an ongoing cycle with the MLB. And I mean, I love seeing the home run ball just as much as anyone, but I also like to see a fair game. I like to see the best of the best go at it, and they win because of their skill. This is not it. And the MLB, please, I know you're not going to hear this one, but please figure it out. And I don't blame the pitchers for coming out and saying this. Chris Bassett, I know I mentioned him in the opening, but he is more than able to now come out here, and he's been succeeding. He's talking bad about the balls, even though he is succeeding with them in his hand. That just speaks that these players want a fair, they want to be heard. They want stuff to happen. They want stuff to be fixed. They want a fair game. And the MLB, let's just see if they make that happen. I don't think they will. But the only thing that we got to look forward to is the future. And the future, I'm hoping it's going to be looking bright for the trust between Major League Baseball and their players.
Yeah, 6 scoreless innings, and to come out and say something like that, it does feel like the MLB, this whole experiment that it's definitely going on right now. I think experiment is definitely the right word to use there, but it's almost like it's to normalize not the relationship between the hitter and the batter, but just to normalize the way the ball flies within different stadiums is kind of what I'm hearing and what I'm reading based on what the ball is accomplishing this year and what they're swapping out this year. I wonder, do you guys think that is, something that MLB should continue to work on, or is part of the appeal of the sport of baseball? Is it the fact that every place you go is different? Is it the fact that Fenway has, the green monster, and that there's the short porch in Yankee Stadium, or that the ball flies in Colorado? Now that I think about it, they've been doing it forever, but they changed the humidity of the balls in Colorado, so the balls don't fly, a million feet out of the ballpark. So they've already done that on sort of smaller scales. But is it a good thing that MLB is now trying to do this for all stadiums, or is it taking away from part of the uniqueness of the sport and a little bit of the variability? I'll leave that up for anybody who wants to take a shot at it.
I don't know. Like at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of fans, or at least like the new school fans, they don't want to see a pitcher's duel. So I really don't think And the climate changes all the time, like it's hard to really like say, oh,
Hmm.
this is what it's going to be like in this time of the year. This is what's going to be, like we'll just adjust as the climate adjusts. But I don't know. Like I want to see home runs, and it. I think if I didn't mind the juicing of the balls because I just love the high scoring, games. Like I thought that was fun seeing like an 8-7 slugfest because look, let's be honest, like going to a 3.5 hour, 3 hour baseball game and just seeing pitchers throw absolute gas, it gets boring after maybe the third or fourth inning. But when you have that run effect to it, you're adding that sort of like excitement and ugh, and wanting to go back to the games, like because that's the whole issue that MLB's having is just like the game is getting so old school again, and that it's hard for now kids to like want to go to the games. Like when we go to games, like we're not seeing many kids anymore at the games.
Yeah.
It's a lot more like older teenagers like us, or even just like middle age people, or like people
Yeah.
that are like in their late 20s, or like like we're not seeing kids anymore at the games, and I think that's a huge problem. And I understand like the whole we want a fair game, but at the same time it's all about entertainment. As much as it sounds crazy, it's more entertainment than it is just fairness to the game.
Yeah. And it definitely feels like, one of the things that they were talking about before is that home runs aren't necessarily the biggest attractor to more offense. It's more just action. And so traffic on the bases is action. So turning some of those home runs into doubles sort of generates a little bit better ratings for MLB, sort of what they've seen. But right now it feels like those home runs are turning into flyouts and those doubles are turning into lineouts or singles that aren't going anywhere because guys are just
Hmm.
striking out anyway. So it doesn't seem like whatever they're doing is working. And
Hmm.
overall, it just kind of feels like a bit of a lose-lose situation for Major League Baseball. So I guess we'll see how they'll handle it. I doubt that this whole experiment continues for the whole year. I'm sure they'll eventually decide on a ball. I mean, we're only 20 games in, but you still got to stop screwing with the players, especially if somebody like Chris Bassett, who's had this much success so far, is already fed
Hmm.
up with it. So we'll see how it goes. We'll continue to monitor that situation, and if anything big happens, we'll get back to you with some updates on that. But staying in New York, moving to the other side of New York, we are going to move on to the other big news in baseball this week. After years of waiting, the Yankees have finally been forced to release the infamous letter from the 2017 season that was addressed from Rob Manfred to Brian Cashman about the Yankees cheating scandal. Turns out they cheated. They cheated before the Astros and around the same time as the Red Sox, which they were, complaining ridiculously about, which looks horrible in retrospect now that you realize they were cheating at the same time.
Oh my
For
god.
2015 and part of the 16 season, they used the dugout phone to relay video from a video feed. It wasn't coming from the broadcast feed, which is something that people originally thought it was. They've been cleared of that charge, but they were using the dugout phone improperly to relay signals from some camera, some video station that they had both at home and away ballparks, which is essentially the same thing that the Red Sox they were doing with the smartwatch that the Yankees threw fits about for what felt like an entire season. The Yankees claim that at the time they weren't breaking any rules because it wasn't clarified by MLB that this was considered cheating until 2017, even though it obviously was. And they used their defense that other teams were already stealing signs anyway. So I ask you guys, if Alex Cora, Carlos Beltran, and AJ Hinch were all punished for their actions, but the Yankees faced nothing, should the Yankees have also been punished for cheating, and should they be
Yeah.
punished retroactively? I know
Yeah.
Evan's going to have some strong opinions
Yeah.
about this, but let's hear.
My time. Evan's time. Hell
Just
yeah.
go off. Let's hear you.
Dude, I mean, honestly, yeah. Like, if it's so dumb, and now I didn't actually know about this. Like, I had no clue when I saw the news on this on Twitter. I was like, wait, what the hell happened? Like, I never realized that the Yankees were also involved in this sort of cheating scandal. Now you look at a guy like Carlos Beltran, who wasn't he on that Yankees team? I'm trying to remember.
Carlos Beltran, was he on the Yankees?
I know he played for the Yankees. I don't know if he was on that. Because if he is, and that just makes this whole
Double down.
situation even.
There
This
was
makes
something about Carlos Beltran where something came out about said rumors, and he was trying to be the head coach of the Mets, and I believe he had to step
I
Yeah,
thought that
down.
was with the
Beltran.
Astros, though. I thought that was the issues with the
Yeah,
Astros.
that
It
was
could
because
be.
of the Astro scandal. Beltran was not on the
Did he ever play for the
on that
Yankees, or am
Yankees
I
team.
just
I
so?
believe he did. I'll find out
Did
for
he
you.
cheat twice? That's actually kind of
Oh
cool.
my God, if he cheated,
He did not. He was not on the Yankees team that cheated.
But did he play for?
But he did play. Oh, he played on the 2016 Yankees.
Oh, look at Evan, man.
He did. He played on the 2016 Yankees, so I guess technically he was cheating for the first half of 2016 if he wasn't on it. So,
Yeah.
oh my God, was he? He was an All-Star in 2016.
Well,
Huh?
now we know why.
Huh? Oh, and
But
he did play 2015 NC. No, he was there. He was fully there while they were cheating.
look at
maybe
Evan,
he-
man.
He was
he
fully there
brought
while
it
they were
to
cheating.
Houston.
Wow.
Putting in the work on and
Wow.
off the ice.
133 games in 2015, 151 in 2016, 99 of which were in New York. He might have brought it from New York to Houston.
That's what I was just making sure.
Look at
I remember
Evan.
look at Evan, man. It's just so
They're
inspirational.
Evan Dub. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like, I mean, and then you'll get Joe Girardi, who was the manager, obviously now manager of your beloved Phillies. Like if I'm Rob Manfred, I mean, I'm suspending Girardi for the rest of this year, because AJ Hinch was suspended for a full year as well, and Carlos Beltran lost his right to be the manager of the Mets. So if I'm him, I'm spending Girardi for the rest of the year. I would ban Brian Cashman. Is he even there? He's still. I don't even know.
Cashman's still there.
I would take him out. I would give him the same punishment as the Astros. So what? 2 years for? I think the GM of the Astros got 2 years, and
the Astros GM got 2 years. Hinch got a year, and they lost a few draft picks.
Yeah, so I would do this too. Yeah, I would do the same thing to the Yankees because I mean it's really no different. Like you can't classify it as like, oh well, this was a lesser version of cheating, and also the fact that they were even bitching about the Red Sox, and yet you're doing just a typical New York thing, and then you're complaining about the Red Sox. And
you're complaining about the Red Sox, and then at the same time you're saying everybody else was cheating, so it was fine for us, right?
No one else was really cheating, because then it would just be even a huger scandal than what was going on. But I mean, I'm throwing down the same punishment that the Astros got, and wasn't Alex Cora also banned
got
for
suspended for a year? But that might have been a team suspension. I don't actually remember.
Regardless, I mean, regardless of the situation, I would just whatever Cora and Hinch got, Girardi should get, and the Yankees should lose draft picks. They should lose Aaron Judge, and they should also lose like Garrett Cole because he sucks too. But yeah, they should lose a lot.
Mary, I'd be interested to see what you say, obviously, because Girardi is the manager of your team. I mean, I don't think it's any debate that the Yankees should definitely use some draft picks, should lose some draft picks. Sorry about that. But do you think Girardi should be held accountable for this retroactively?
I do, and I'll get to it in like a little bit of a second here, but I just want to mention one thing. What a rough week for New York Yankees fans, man. They get called the worst fan base by actual MLB players, not just us fans here that actually read the game and know how bad of the fan base they are. And then they get a bunch of this stuff dropped on their doorstep to wake up to. It's something that I kind of found, at least from what I look at for my news outlets, kind of got swept under the rug. And you're going to expect to see that possibly with a lot of things about the New York Yankees in the near future. This team is not just a team, it's a brand. Everyone knows who the New York Yankees are. The MLB is probably, I think this is their richest organization right now amongst all of them. So the Yankees have a lot of say across Major League Baseball. They have strong connections. I think the headquarters is actually located in New York. So there's a lot of ties between the Yankees and the upper heads at Major League Baseball. Do I think they should be suspended? Yes. Why shouldn't they be suspended? If the Red Sox got their players punished and the Houston Nationals got their players punished, the New York Yankees are no different. They cheated, and cheating is cheating. MLB, cheating is cheating. Now, listen, if you're going to put an asterisk on what cheating is, then this is a pretty different story. Oh, cheating is only if you win the World Series. If you do that, then you deserve to get punished. No, it should not be that way. And it should not be that way because it's about sending a message. The MLB is met with a precedent here where they have to set the tone for the future teams. And you tried to do that, and I guess these teams didn't listen, or these teams cheated beforehand, just much like the Yankees have before the Astros did get punished. But listen, it's not like and they said they're not cheating. We played within the rules. Listen, it's not like the LTIR in hockey. That is a rule that you are allowed to do it. Everyone thinks it's cheating, but absolutely it is not cheating. They're playing within the rules, no matter how much we don't like it, and I know how much we complain. They're still going to do it, and it's something that I think is going to get adjusted. But regardless of hockey, there is a serious rule at stake, and it is cheating. I think you have to punish cheaters, no matter who it is. The Yankees hold a very big reputation, like I mentioned earlier, within across the entire MLB. If you punish them, you're showing that no team, not even the biggest ones, not even the ones that win the World Series, nothing is safe from you cheating. It doesn't matter what you do. And I think the MLB is going to do that. And it's going to be Now I'm going to say I'm not going to say it's going to be unfortunate, maybe for my Phillies, because I don't want to see Joe Girardi lose his job, even though he has no affiliation with cheating in the Phillies. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's how things work in the MLB. I'm interested to see how long this thing plays out for, as in the terms of how long did this take for them to actually realize that this was happening, and how long are the suspensions going to be? I'm assuming it's going to be similar to what we've seen in the past from other players and other coaches that have reached the same fate. But most definitely, Mateo, to answer your question, these guys should be suspended. Joe Girardi included, unfortunately. But listen, you do something wrong in the MLB, you have to be punished for it. And I don't think the league should be setting a little cover me up story on why we're not getting these guys suspended compared to these guys. It has to be blank across the board. You have to set the right precedent. This is a big moment for the MLB. They have to play with it with white gloves. This is something that can slip out of their grasp in an instant. So please make the right decision. And I think they will, because they know what's at stake here. The future of their game is at stake. The integrity of their game is at stake. And I think they'll handle it quite well, quite smoothly, quite efficiently. And you're going to expect to see a lot of Yankees face a lot of repercussions, not only that is on the team, but other guys who have went from this team to new places.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that, it almost feels like this is in the past, and that Major League Baseball is not going to hand out any suspensions, because remember, they knew about this in 2017 when they sent the letter, and the punishment that they handled under the table behind everybody's backs was $100,000 fine for the Yankees who cheated. I believe in 2015 would have been to get the wild card, and then 2016 would have been to win the division. And all they got was $100,000 fine that, MLB ended up donating to charity. But it feels like this is sort of in the past, that Major League Baseball isn't going to hand out a suspension, isn't going to hand anything out, despite the fact that this is now public. What do you guys see as a fitting punishment for New York in this situation? What would you have done in 2017 if you were Rob Manfred? I'll start with Evan.
I thought we already just said that we would hand out the suspensions.
You'd hand out the same suspensions that you'd give to Houston, even though they didn't win the World Series.
I mean, who cares if you didn't win the World Series or not? Like, what does it matter? And, if you didn't win the World Series, I'd laugh at you. That's pathetic. Like, what are you cheating for then? What's the point of cheating if you can't win?
That's fair.
But no, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, although the two issues are with the Red Sox and the Astros, who both stole World Series from me, but, the Yankees should still be punished the same way. And it doesn't matter that it happened so long ago. The point is that there's evidence against them. So, I mean, they're kind of in a tough spot here.
It's interesting, though, that this report doesn't mention players. We've seen a lot of other reports. The Astros report dragged dragged Beltran down. And, the Red Sox report, there were obviously the players who were caught with the smartwatches on them. But this Yankees report, it doesn't necessarily, mark certain players as cheaters, or it doesn't do any of that. So this does sort of a little bit feel like a little bit of an MLB cover up. And unfortunately, it looks like we'll never be able to get an answer to really what was happening in that Yankees clubhouse. But unfortunately, it's in the past, and it doesn't look like justice is going to be able to be served for this Yankees team. I don't know if we want to get into more Yankees hate.
I'm all for Yankees hate. It's quite fun, to be honest.
I mean, definitely one of the least popular fan bases in the MLB lately after the whole debacle with
so bad, bro.
Miles Straw in the outfield, and he was defending his teammate Stephen Kwan, who was having some pretty not okay things said at him from the stands, and he gets up on the right field wall and starts climbing up at it and yelling at fans. I don't know if you saw that one video from the fans' perspective that actually picked up. He was up there, hit me, that kind of thing. It's no secret that Yankees fans are the worst, and that, they'll drive a player crazy like that. Do you think Miles Straw was well within his rights to get up there on the wall?
I do think he stepped over the line. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not in that position where a bunch of guys are yelling at me, so I don't know what I'd do. Maybe even a similar action, but you're a professional baseball player. As much as the Yankees fan base stinks, there's probably children watching that game, or there's children around them in the seats, and they're seeing that, a baseball player who I want to be one day, he can do that. If a lot of people are yelling at him, or in any situation, if someone's getting mad at you, you're allowed to go up to them in their face and give them a piece of your mind. And I mean, I don't think it was right for Miles Straw to handle like that. Do I like it? Yes, because I don't like to see the Yankees succeed at anything. But no, it's a very unprofessional look from his part. He's basking in all the glory. He's signing autographs of him, pictures of him. Like, it's actually he's loving it, and he's saying, okay, this is my brand now, which I don't think is the right brand to strut if you're Miles Straw. But hey, it happened. He did it, and it's just another myrrh on the ugly, tainted identity that is the New York Yankees fan.
He didn't get fined for that, did he?
No.
Miles Straw? No. Yeah, I guess he never went into the seats. He never really did anything like
He
that.
didn't
But
do
that's still
anything
like
yeah.
that pushes the limits of what you can get away with as a Major League Baseball player. We've seen players get dinged for a
Mhm.
lot less in that sort of situation. I mean, it brings into question, like what is the role of a player and how much can they really take from a fan
Right.
and that sort of thing. And was, who knows what was said in the innings prior to that before everything boiled over like that. But I mean, Miles Straw definitely overstepping a little bit despite the circumstances. You can't climb up on the
You
wall and
can't
start
do it, but
yelling
I
at
see
fans like
where it
that.
came from.
I'm sure so many players have wanted to though.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I
Yeah.
cannot imagine.
I
Yeah,
don't
Evan, go
know.
ahead.
I'm kind of on the side of Miles Straw. I
Oh
don't think
yeah,
he was out of the. I mean, we're we've seen this. I mean, in the NBA with Kyrie Irving and how he was giving the bird to the fans, like when they were calling him like a bitch and all that, using vulgar language against him, and also like guys, let's be real, like someone's throwing something at you, you're not just going to stand there like a
true.
statue and take it. Like if I was Miles Straw, I would have found any way to get into the stands and beat the crap out of whoever's doing that. Because let's be real, if the fans walked up to Miles Straw in person, they would be on their hands and knees asking for an autograph. But now that he's not in a position that he can retaliate, it's almost like, I mean, I don't know. It's like when you're giving a dog a bone, but then you keep taking the bone away from the dog, and then the dog gets upset that you keep doing it. Like Miles Straw had every right to do what he did, and the fact that it was only the fact that a security guard was stopping him and his teammates were stopping him from doing what he was doing. But when someone's throwing something at you, you can't expect him to be like, "Oh yeah, like it's whatever. Like I'll just walk away." Like no, like he was already fuming and you're antagonizing someone who's already visibly upset. Like I mean, if I was Miles Straw, I would help him get over the fence to go beat up whoever's throwing stuff at me.
Yeah. And to your point, it does feel like, what you were talking about in the NBA, it does feel like athletes are sort of starting to, reach this outer limit of what they can take from fans. And they're starting to realize that, hey, just because I'm paid $1 million doesn't mean that I have to sort of take this abuse constantly and work. And that's, a debate for another day, but this is their job. This is what they do for a living. And it's got to be hard to come to work every day and be constantly berated by
Yeah, and
millions
then
of people. Yeah.
yeah, and then just to be like, oh well, the player was in the wrong. Like, dude, imagine like if you're in that spot,
Yeah.
you're not just gonna take it. And I understand it's on a national level, but fans shouldn't have been doing it.
No, it's definitely a wake up call for fans of every sport that, these guys are real people as much as we want to, distance ourselves from that they're real people and they deserve to be treated with, a little bit of respect because you want to be treated the same way walking into work every day. Sort of moving on from that, we'll end it on a bit of a lighter note, celebratory note even. Miguel Cabrera finally records his 3,000th hit in front of the home fans in Detroit. Fittingly, it was an opposite field single the other way, the way he's made his money his entire career. Miguel Cabrera uses all fields, one of the best hitters we've ever seen in baseball, definitely one of the best right-handed hitters of all time. I want to ask you guys, though, who has the best shot to join him next in the 3,000 hit club? It's probably going to be a little bit before we see another guy with 3,000 hits. There's a few guys that are close, but I want to hear you guys, if you had one pick to see who would be next to join him.
Yeah.
Who would it be? Evan, I can tell you.
Yeah, I got a name. I'm gonna go. I mean, it's no bias here. No, I'm not just saying no bias.
I know who's
here.
coming. I know who's coming.
I think you do too. I'm gonna go Trey Turner of the.
No, not who I thought was coming. Actually,
oh really?
Not who I thought was coming. No.
Oh wait. Well, now I'm curious to see who did you think.
Go ahead. No, let's hear yours first.
All right, I'm gonna go Trey Turner. I mean, hopefully he's a Dodger for many more years to come. But I mean, the dude leads the league in batting average every year. And when you're leading the league in batting average, means you're most likely getting a lot of hits when you're up to bat. I mean, I think he, like over his last 4 years, has a batting average of like 315 or something like that. And I mean, he hasn't been in the MLB for a very long time, but I mean, if he's, I mean, knock on wood, he's as durable as can be. I haven't really heard of too many nagging injuries with him. So, I mean, if he could keep this up for the next 10 to 13 years, I could definitely see him reaching the 3,000 hit mark.
Yeah, Trey Turner, a guy 29 years of age, actually, which is a little bit older than I thought he was, honestly, but only 857 hits. So he's going to have to be very productive for
he's really good.
A very long time for the rest of his career. There's no doubt that he'll have a shot, but
who did you think I was going with now?
I honestly thought you were going to go with Freddie Freeman, 32 years old in his 13th seasons at 1726. He's got an outside shot to get it. He's got an outside shot to get it. He's probably got
cool.
How much longer is his contract going to take him? His contract is
until he's 38.
until he's 38. So he'll have 6 more seasons. There's a shot that he can do it. There's a shot.
Yeah,
He might have to
6
sign
seasons,
another deal
including this
afterwards.
year.
There might be a shot that he'll have to sign another deal afterwards. But Freddie Freeman, over halfway there at 32 years old, that's definitely one of the closer players
I
we're
didn't
seeing in
realize
this
Trey
generation.
Turner was that. I thought he was like 27.
No, Trey's 29 years old. It shocked me too. I don't know, Mara, do you have another player that you think might
I
be a
do
little
have a
more likely?
player. People are going to give me a lot of love for this one. Very rare, but listen, it's going to be real. This is an impossible milestone. Now that I'm looking at these numbers that you provided us with, it just shows how hard Miggy had to work
Yeah,
for this, how dedicated you
especially
have to be.
I will add, especially because they lost a full season, almost a full
Yes,
season in 2020
exactly.
playing the shortened year,
Hmm.
right? That's
Yeah.
what's going to hold a lot of these guys back.
And the other biggest thing too, durability is
Mhm.
probably. I'm surprised I didn't see any, like, I don't know if Cal Ripken is up there within this record, or the guys
Yeah.
who have played probably the most games in MLB history. Those kind of guys, I'd like to see what their stats lie. But the guy that I'm going to pick is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now,
Mm.
listen, there's going to be. I don't think I'm ever going to revisit this, but I'm going to remember it for sure. And I said this: Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be one of the next members of the
Mm.
3,000 hit club. And I mean, you go look, he has about 400 hits in I guess as many years, 4 years, including a condensed season. So he knows how to hit the ball well. He knows how to hit and get that number there. I don't know, man. It's going to be a young player, and I don't think you can give it to guys like Nolan Arenado was another guy I considered, but he's
Mm.
31 and he's at, by what you have numbers here, uh, around 1,300, 1,400. So he's going to need a
Mhm.
lot more. But I'm gonna need a lot more. He's at age 31. It's gonna be really hard. He's probably gonna be consistent till age, I'd say 38. Do I see him going into the 40s? Probably not. This list is very exclusive, and everyone has to understand that. Vladdy, he is going to be a historic player. He's going to be a historic figure in Toronto, one of the best baseball players, if not the best baseball player we've seen in this city. I think he has a shot at doing it. I'm not going to say he's going to do it, but if there's anyone from this young generation that's going to have a shot at it, I think he is one of the best ones. So, yeah, I got Vladdy up there for maybe possibly joining Miguel Cabrera. Who knows? But I don't think it's going to be any of the older guys in this company just because of how hard it is to attain this record.
Yeah, definitely feels like this list sort of favors guys like Lindor, Acuna, Soto, just because they have so much time left. And
Mm-hmm.
Vlad's
Mhm.
definitely one of those front runners of the younger players that'll definitely get there. But a guy who coming into the league, it sort of seemed like it was a foregone conclusion that he'd be in the 3,000 hit club. Mike Trout. I mean, he's dealt with a lot of injuries. We've talked about the shortened season last year, how it's affected all these sort of veteran players. At 1436 right now in his age 30 season, do you think he can get to 3,000?
He's the best player in baseball. I've said this numerously. He's just one of the most plagued injury-wise players in baseball. And again, as much as he's great, and Miguel Cabrera was just as great, Miguel Cabrera was very healthy for most of his career, something that is very fortunate to him. Not a lot of players, much of like Trout, is within this range. He's so good, so talented. He's just going to have a disadvantage with his health. And this is not like something that's going to
Yeah.
continuously get better. He's not going to get healthier. He's going to get uh, a lot more wear and tear on his body. We're seeing it this year. You already got hit by a pitch, and everyone's on the edge of their seat saying, "Oh God, is this guy okay? Please be okay." Everything that this guy does, if he gets hit, if he pulls something, it's going to be a knock on that. So I can't really say Mike Trout's slot in for that number. Skill wise, yes, absolutely. He's so good. I would argue that he's probably better than Miguel Cabrera was, but Miguel Cabrera had a lot of things that worked for him, including the durability, something Mike Trout doesn't have. And that's something that's very important when trying to achieve for this record.
Yeah, Miggy also had the ability to switch positions a few times in his career.
Too.
Went from the outfield to third base to first base, which is one of the most, preserving positions you can play for your body. Trout's been a center fielder for his whole career, and there's been talk about moving him to left field. You almost wonder if that's going to have to happen if he wants to play long enough to get to 3,000. If he's going to eventually have to swallow his pride, make that move to left field, and sort of try to squeeze a few more years out of his career, because it looks like that's what it's going to take now for Mike Trout to get to 3,000. He's not even halfway there in his age 30 season. Evan, do you think he's going to get there?
Yeah, I don't think he is either.
No.
It's tough. I mean, he
Yeah.
plays one of the most athletic positions, and when you're getting up there in age, it's just hard to move. And, just with the MLB being such a fast paced sport, as soon as that ball's hit off the bat, you got to be ready. And it's also just like when you're thinking about he's moving his hips, the way he has to move to get to the baseball. We're not seeing the same web gem plays that we saw, like that play in Oakland where he's jumping on the wall and snagging a home run. It's just it's hard, and the fact that he just has been able to stay healthy for a long time, I can't imagine it getting any better as he gets older.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to say the least to see how Trout can finish out his career, but it'll almost feel wrong if he doesn't get there as a baseball fan. I don't know. It leaves a hole in baseball history that you really want to see filled. And so you got to be cheering for Trout, obviously, to make the most out of the next couple of years in his career to get there. And if he's off to a hot start this year, so if he can keep that up, then he's definitely got an outside shot. We will definitely see. I don't know if anybody wants to get some final words in on the 3000 hit club.
Man. It's just it's not a knock on any of these players. Like,
No.
This is just an exclusive
No, they
list that
suck.
is so hard to achieve. But Evan, take his word for it.
Take his word for it. Exactly. All righty, guys. I think that sort of brings us to the end of everything that we wanted to recap in baseball this week. A lot of New York, a lot of the big news week in baseball, but thanks for sticking with us. And hopefully as the season gets a little further on, we'll be able to sort of analyze a little bit more of the teams and how they're sort of playing this year. But thanks for sticking with us, guys. And thanks for watching episode 14 of Breaking News Bears on Dynasty Sports Network. See you later.